name is Orly. I'm 32 years old, a number that feels far too heavy for my shoulders, and I'm a single mother to the best 10-year-old on the planet, Liam. We live in a small, two-bedroom apartment that feels like a fortress against the world, filled with the scent of microwave mac and cheese and the comforting chaos of my son's video games. I work as an accountant from home, a job that is as gray and predictable as a rainy Tuesday, but it pays the bills and keeps us afloat. For most of my life, I felt like a side note in my own story. The main character has always been my younger sister, Sophia. She's 2 years younger, but in my mother's eyes, she was always light years ahead. Sophia was the one who was beautiful, who got into the best university, who never had a hair out of place. My mother, Elena, made sure I knew it. She never said it outright, of course. It was always in the subtle jabs, the loaded comparisons, the way her eyes would glaze over with thinly veiled pity when she looked at me. "Oh, Orly, you're so practical," she'd say, a backhanded compliment that meant I was boring. "Sophia, she's so full of life." It's been this way for as long as I can remember. When Liam was born, a beautiful, miraculous surprise, their judgment only intensified. My mother called him a heavy burden. And Sophia never missed an opportunity to remind me how my mistake had prevented me from having a real life, a life like hers. So when my mother called, her voice saccharine with an artificial sweetness I knew meant trouble, stomach, my instinctively tightened. "Orly, darling, I have some wonderful news," she trilled. I braced myself. "What is it?" "Mom, Sophia is engaged to Michael Bennett. He's a wonderful, successful financial advisor, just what a girl like her deserves. And he wants to meet the whole family. We're having a small dinner at my place on Saturday." The invitation felt less like a celebration and more like a summons. The emphasis on the whole family was her way of saying, don't even think about skipping out. I agreed, knowing it was a battle I couldn't win. I'd show up, smile, and sit quietly in my designated corner, and it would all be over. Saturday arrived in a blur of last-minute laundry and me trying to convince Liam that his favorite dinosaur T-shirt was not appropriate for a formal dinner. He, in turn, convinced me that his well-worn sneakers were a non-negotiable part of his smart, casual look. We arrived at my mother's meticulously decorated home, a place so perfect it felt sterile. Sophia, looking like she'd just stepped out of a magazine, greeted us at the door. Her engagement ring, a massive diamond that seemed to mock the simplicity of my life, glittered under the chandelier light. Orly, you made it," she said, her smile not reaching her eyes. "And you brought the boy." My hand instinctively went to Liam's shoulder. "His name is Liam," I said, my voice tight. That's when I saw Michael. He was standing by the fireplace, tall and composed, with a kind face and eyes that held a warmth that was completely out of place in this cold house. He was nothing like the arrogant, stuffy finance bro I'd imagined. He was just a man. Sophia draped herself over his arm. "Michael, this is my sister, Orly. And this is her son, Liam." Michael stepped forward, a genuine smile on his face. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Orly, and you must be Liam." He knelt down to my son's level, an act of genuine respect that made my heart flutter with surprise. "Liam, that's a good, strong name. I hear you like soccer." Liam's face lit up. He had spent the whole car ride reading this. Now, someone was actually seeing him. They spent the next 20 minutes talking about soccer teams, their conversation flowing effortlessly while Sophia and my mother stood by, annoyed at being ignored. Dinner was a different kind of torture, Sophia and my mother took turns regaling Michael with stories of Sophia's triumphs, her flawless career, her perfect social life, her impeccable taste. When the conversation finally turned to me, it was always with a subtle but vicious twist. "Oh, Orly works from home," Sophia said, as if my job was a hobby. "She's so good at numbers, aren't you?" Orly. It's perfect for her, really. With her situation. She didn't have to say, single mother. The subtext hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Michael, to his credit, didn't fall for it. He kept turning the conversation back to me, asking me about my work, my clients, my goals. He even made a point to ask me about Liam's art, remembering a small doodle on my son's shirt. His kindness was a life raft in a sea of passive aggression. And for the first time, I felt a spark of something I hadn't felt in a long, long time: hope. The dinner ended, and as we were leaving, Sophia pulled me aside. "Mom thinks you should help me plan the wedding, since you have so much free time." Her words were laced with venom. I wanted to say no. I wanted to tell her exactly what I thought of her and my mother and their whole perfect charade. But then I saw my mom's pleading eyes, full of a rare, silent blackmail, and I knew what would happen if I refused. A lifetime of guilt trips and subtle shaming would follow. So I sighed and agreed. The next few weeks were a special kind of hell. Sophia was a bridezilla of epic proportions. She would text me at 3 a.m. with last-minute ideas for a table setting or a demand for a specific type of exotic flower she'd seen on some celebrity wedding blog. She treated me like a personal assistant, a glorified maid. Michael, however, was my only solace. He would call to check in, not just on the wedding plans, but on me. "Is everything okay?" He'd ask, his voice calm and steady. Sophia can be a bit intense. A bit intense is an understatement. I'd laugh, and for a few minutes, I'd forget the stress and the constant ridicule. One evening, he called and asked to meet me for coffee. I was hesitant, but he insisted it was just about the wedding. When we met, though, the topic quickly shifted. "Orly," he began, his voice dropping to a serious tone. "I've been thinking a lot about something you said at dinner, about Liam and his drawings. And I know this is a long shot, but it brought up a memory of my sister, my younger sister, Emily. She was sick a long time ago. She was only 18, but she was a fighter. She was a brilliant artist too, but she was in the hospital for so long, and her room felt so empty. One day, a little boy and his mom came to visit a friend down the hall, and the little boy, he had a rocket ship drawing. He gave it to her just like that. And then the mom came back every day with a new drawing from the boy. It brought Emily so much joy. She'd put them up all over her wall. It made her last few months brighter. I've never forgotten that act of kindness. My heart stopped. My hand trembled as I lifted my coffee cup. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. A rocket ship drawing. I whispered. He nodded, a flicker of hope in his eyes. "Yes, a green one?" She loved it. A wave of memories crashed over me. 12 years ago, Liam, a tiny 4-year-old boy with an endless supply of crayons and a passion for all things that flew. He had been visiting his great aunt, who was recovering from a minor surgery in the next wing. I remembered the long, sterile hallways, the quiet beeps of machines, the little girl with the pale face and the wary eyes in the next room. I had told Liam to be quiet, but he, in his typical boisterous way, had run up to her room and pressed a crudely drawn rocket ship against her window. She had smiled. A real, genuine smile. After that, we went back every day. It was our routine. Liam would give her a new drawing, and I'd sit on a chair outside her room, just talking to her through the half-open door. We never talked about her illness. We talked about her dreams. She told me she wanted to be a teacher and travel the world. Her name was Emily. My eyes met Michael's and everything fell into place. Michael, I remember. Emily. She was so kind. And Liam was obsessed with space. A single tear rolled down his cheek, and he didn't bother to wipe it away. That was you, wasn't it? And your son. Orly, you have no idea you brought so much light to her. To us. You have no idea what that meant. In that moment, a bond was forged between us, one far deeper and more meaningful than anything he could have had with Sophia. It was a connection born of shared grief and a past act of selfless kindness. It was a secret history we shared, a fragile thread woven into the fabric of our lives. The next day, Michael called me. Orly, he said, his voice full of conviction, I've been thinking. I want you to be the maid of honor. My jaw dropped. What? But that's Sophia's her friend from college. I'm talking to her now, he said, his voice firm. I just told her, family is important. Orly, I want you up there with us. He hung up, and not 2 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Sophia. What the hell did you tell him? Orly! She shrieked. Are you trying to ruin my wedding? You're not getting to be maid of honor. You're not special. You're just a single mother who got lucky with a few stupid drawings. The call was so vitriolic, so full of pure, unadulterated rage, that I hung up. A minute later, my mom called. Orly, how could you do this to your sister? You are a guest, a charity case, really? Don't you ever think of anyone but yourself. I didn't fight back. I didn't even try to explain. I just took a deep breath, and for the first time, I didn't feel the sting of their words. I felt nothing. Their power over me had finally vanished, replaced by a quiet sense of peace. I had a secret now, a bond with Michael that they couldn't touch. The wedding day arrived, a beautiful, sun-drenched Saturday that felt like a mockery of the storm brewing beneath the surface. I put on the maid of honor dress, a simple, elegant emerald green gown, and Liam, looking impossibly handsome in his little suit, stood by my side. Sophia, in her extravagant ball gown, was a vision of a perfect bride, but her eyes held a cold, vengeful glint every time she looked at me. During the ceremony, she pointedly ignored me, whispering secrets to her bridesmaids and laughing. My mother didn't look at me once. They were a unified front, a silent wall of disapproval. I held Liam's hand, a silent promise between us that we had each other no matter what. The reception was held in a magnificent ballroom, all glittering chandeliers and white roses. Liam, overwhelmed by the noise and the sea of unfamiliar faces, clung to my leg. He had been so excited to be a part of this, but now he just wanted to go home. He had no idea what was coming. The toasts began. The best man gave a charming, funny speech. Then it was Sophia's turn. She clinked her glass, a mischievous smirk playing on her lips. Michael looked at me from across the room, his eyes full of a strange mixture of admiration and sorrow. I didn't understand why until Sophia started to speak. I want to thank everyone for coming. She began, her voice sweet as sugar. It means so much to me and my handsome husband, Michael. And I especially want to thank my sister, Orly. She's been such a help with the planning. It's hard to believe, really, because she's always had such a chaotic life. A ripple of uncomfortable laughter spread through the room. My face flushed. Liam's hand tightened in mine. She's a single mother, you know. Sophia continued, her voice dripping with mock sympathy. It's a very noble choice, a very difficult path. I mean, who would want to take on someone else's burden? I certainly wouldn't. But Orly, she's so brave. She really is. It's not easy being a secondhand good, a leftover, but she does it with a smile. The laughter grew louder, crueler. My blood ran cold. The microphone amplified her words, turning a subtle jab into a public execution. I felt every eye on me, every whisper, every single molecule of my humiliation. My chest ached with the pain. Liam, looking up at me, his eyes wide and full of confusion, saw my tears. He'd never seen me cry like this before. He was a brave boy, a soccer captain, a hero of his own story. But at that moment, he was just a scared little boy watching his mom get torn apart. So here's to Orly. Sophia finished, holding up her glass with a triumphant smile. To the one who always shows up, no matter how inconvenient her life is. I wanted the ground to swallow me whole. I wanted to run, to hide, to disappear into a world where I didn't exist. But Liam was here, and I had to be strong for him. I had to get us out. And then, from across the room, I heard a voice that cut through the noise like a thunderclap. That's enough, Sophia. It was Michael. He stood up, his face a mask of rage and disgust. He walked to the head table, pulled the microphone from Sophia's hand, and the room went silent. "I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice cold and clear. "I'm afraid I have a different toast to make. I met a wonderful woman a few months ago. She was quiet, unassuming, and had a heart of pure gold. I was planning to marry her, but it seems I was mistaken. I'm standing here with a woman who has no soul, a woman who would publicly humiliate the very person who brought light and hope into my darkest days. You see, 12 years ago, my little sister, Emily, was dying. And a little boy no older than 4 and his mother came to her room every single day to bring her a drawing. They didn't know her. They didn't have to do it. But they did. That little boy brought her joy in her final days. He was her hero, the most selfless person I've ever had the honor of meeting. He turned, his eyes fixed on mine. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would burst out of my chest. Sophia was standing there, pale and trembling, her perfect composure finally shattered. And that woman and that boy, Michael continued, his voice ringing with conviction, are Orly and Liam. They are the true heroes of my story. Not you, Sophia. You are a cold, selfish, and cruel person. And I am sorry to say, but I cannot and will not marry you. This wedding is over. A collective gasp echoed through the ballroom. My mother looked at me, then at Michael, then at Sophia, her face a whirlwind of shock, anger, and something that looked a lot like fear. Sophia stood frozen, her eyes wide with a mix of fury and disbelief. Michael walked toward me, his movements deliberate, unhurried. He knelt down, looked Liam in the eye, and said, "You are Emily's hero, buddy. You saved her in a way no one else could." Then he took my hand. "Orly, let's go. This is not our place." With my hand in his and Liam's hand in mine, we walked out of the ballroom, leaving the shattered wreckage of a perfect wedding behind us. The air was cool and sweet, a blessed relief from the suffocating heat of the room. We got in his car, and for the first time, all 3 of us were together, a strange, beautiful, and utterly perfect unit. We ended up at a small, quiet Italian restaurant by the river. It was a simple, normal dinner, a world away from the gilded cage we had just escaped. Michael apologized 1,000 times, though he had nothing to apologize for. "I should have seen it sooner," he said, his voice heavy with regret. "The way she treated you, I always thought it was just family stuff. But I know now. It was never about that. It was about you and Liam. It was about her jealousy. And I couldn't stand to see you hurt for one more second." Later, as the moon cast a silvery glow on the river, We drove to a small cemetery on the outskirts of town. We stood together, a silent trio in front of a simple tombstone that read, Emily Bennett. There were no words, just the quiet hum of the night and the gentle breeze. Michael had laid a single white rose on her grave. Liam, without being asked, pulled a crayon and a piece of paper from his pocket and started to draw. A green rocket ship. He didn't say anything. He just placed it by the rose. It was a promise, a circle, a simple act of a boy who understood the value of a single drawing, wooing more than any adult I had ever known. It was in that moment that I knew this wasn't just a romance. This wasn't just a friendship. This was a family. 1 year later, a lot can change in a year. The little 2-bedroom apartment has been replaced by a charming suburban house with a big yard and a tire swing. My old home office, once a closet-sized space with a rickety desk, has been transformed into a bright, airy room with 2 computers and a client list that grows by the day. After Michael's quiet but firm advice, I had quit my job and started my own accounting firm, specializing in small business consulting. It was terrifying, but with his support, it was the best decision I ever made. Liam, my little man, is no longer just a boy. He's a young man. He's the captain of his soccer team, and his room is filled with trophies and medals. He's confident, outgoing, and his laughter is the most beautiful sound in the world. He calls Michael Mike, and their bond is unbreakable, built on a shared love of soccer and a quiet, mutual respect. Michael, he's my constant, my rock. He's not just a part of our lives, he's the foundation of it. We take trips to the park, cook dinner together, and watch cheesy movies on the couch. He and I never spoke about Sophia or my mother again. They had tried, of course. My mother had called a few weeks after the wedding, sobbing about how I had broken the family. I just listened, and when she was finished, I calmly said, the family was broken long before I walked out of that ballroom. Mom. She never called again. Sophia sent a furious, unwinged email about how I had ruined her life. I just deleted it. Their chapter in my life was over, and I had no intention of going back to read it. It's Christmas Eve. Snow is falling outside, blanketing the yard in a pristine white. The Christmas lights on the tree glitter, casting a warm, golden glow on the faces of the people I love most. Michael is sitting on the floor, helping Liam assemble a new ego set, his brow furrowed in concentration. My heart swells with a feeling so profound, it's almost overwhelming. He looks up, catching my gaze. He smiles, a slow, breathtakingly genuine smile that reaches his eyes. He stands up and walks over to me, taking my hand. Liam, buddy, give us a minute, okay? He says. Liam, wise beyond his years, just nods and goes back to his Legos. Michael leads me to the front window. The snow is falling heavier now, a silent, beautiful cascade. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small velvet box. My breath catches in my throat. Orly, he says, his voice thick with emotion. I know a year isn't a long time, and I know we met under unusual circumstances. But you and Liam, you are the truest thing that has ever happened to me. You are my family. You saved my sister. You saved me. And you taught me what love really is. He opens the box. Inside, on a velvet cushion, is a beautiful, delicate silver ring with a single small pearl. It's not flashy or expensive, but it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. This was my sister Emily's, he says, his voice soft. She wanted to give it to her future husband's true love. I found it in her old jewelry box. It was her way of saying thank you. It's a gift from her and from me. Orly, will you marry me? Will you make this official? Because in my heart, we've been a family since that night we walked out of that ballroom. Tears streamed down my face, not from sadness, but from a joy so complete, it was almost painful. This was it. This was the moment, the full circle. A year of healing, of love, of building a life from the ground up, all leading to this. I looked at the ring, at the promise it held, a promise that came not just from him, but from the quiet, brave heart of a girl who had once taught me the meaning of hope. Yes, I whispered, my voice choked with emotion. Yes, Michael. 1,000 times yes. We are a family. We always were. He slid the ring onto my finger. It fit perfectly. He pulled me into a long, slow kiss as the snowflakes danced outside the window, a gentle, beautiful start to a new beginning, a new life, and a new, unbreakable family.